So thank you everyone for being here tonight to come out and listen to our 3 amazing Merrimack County candidates for county attorney. They really appreciate it. And debates like this are phenomenal because they not only are going to be up here and it's a fun time, you're going to hear their pitch on why they should be able to earn your vote. It's free expression. It's great ideas. And again, all of these candidates are well qualified, and truly as a party, we're blessed to have all 3 of them. This is a time to listen, to learn, to have fun. There's tons of pizza, tons of soda up there. Don't be a stranger. I'm not going to judge how much crust you have on your plate. And again, I'm Scott Malty, our chairman, was unfortunately not able to be here tonight. So as a proxy, I'm representing Scott. He's an amazing chairman of the Merrimack County Republican Committee. I have the pleasure of serving as his treasurer. He's also a phenomenal chair of the Republican State Party. And on behalf of him, the Concord Republican City Committee, and the Merrimack County Republican Committee were able to host this event. And again, big shout out to Lynn Blankenbecker. So these events just don't happen, right? There's a lot of thought and consideration that goes into it. And we're like, who would be a great moderator? And we're all talking all good names. Not gonna lie, my name came up and I would have been really good. But when Lynn's name came up, we're like, full stop, that's great. We reached out to Lynn and she committed. So thank you, Lynn. Let's give Lynn another round of applause. Thank you. So with that, I want to quickly introduce the county attorneys. Feel free to take your seats. We've got Sarah Rodgers running for county attorney right here. Big round of applause for Sarah. We've got Meg Hagaman over here, running for county attorney. Big round of applause for Meg. And then last but not least, we have Jon Raiche running for county attorney. So big round of applause for Jon. Now, I have some numbers in my pocket, 3 numbers, and they are somewhere, I promise. I'm gonna give Lynn the microphone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these numbers in a cup. The candidates are going to randomly draw one of these numbers from the cup. And that way, we can have a fair format on how things go first. Because the Republicans, we like things to be fair, right? Thank you. All right, so we're going to shake this up. You all agree that this is enough shakes for fairness?
Yes.
All right, Jon, take the first draw. Look at him. He's not even looking. That's honesty. Meg? 2.
Come on.
What are you gonna get, Sarah?
A 5.
It's rigged.
I can't do math. It's a 3. So again, Mr. Raiche is 1, Ms. Hagaman is 2, and Ms. Rodgers is 3. So thank you very much. And Lynn, I'm going to pass the speaking torch to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming out. Yeah, give it up for the candidates, man. If anybody's had their name on a ballot, they know how hard this is. I've been seeing them all out working really, really hard. So congratulations to all of you and your efforts. So before we get started, so they've drawn numbers. Jonathan will get the first question first, but then we'll round robin it. So the next question Meg will get, and then the next question Sarah will get first. They'll all 3 each get a chance to answer the question. They'll all get the same questions, and they'll each get 1 minute to answer the questions, okay? So we've got to divide it up into categories. We'll start with leadership, and we'll kind of work our way down. Hopefully, by the end of this, you will all have an understanding of what the county attorney does if you don't know. And so please pay attention to all candidates and their answers. And thank you again for coming out tonight. Are you going to give them, David, a minute just to kind of say who they are and why they're running, or are we going to do that?
That's up to you, but I would say let's do that. How about we give each candidate 1 minute?
Okay, you each get 1 minute to say who you are and why you're running. All right. Well, since Sarah got number 3, we'll let you go first, okay?
Oh, I think you got it. Yeah.
Is it on? Oh, okay, it's on. Let me know when you started. Did you start? Oh my gosh, you already started. Okay, so I'm Sarah Rodgers. I was born and raised in Merrimack County, so I am from Merrimack County for Merrimack County. I believe in justice and accountability, very fundamental principles for me. I was a prosecutor for 8 years in Merrimack County, Rockingham County, and Hillsborough County. I've seen prosecutors' offices run really well, and I've seen them run not so well. I've got a lot of ideas about what I want to bring to the Merrimack County Attorney's Office, and I'm really excited about it.
Hi everyone, my name is Meg Hagaman. I am running because I think that I am the most prepared candidate to be your next Merrimack County Attorney. As the night will go on, I'm sure you'll hear more about our backgrounds, but I have spent my entire career in New Hampshire's criminal justice system as a prosecutor, and the foundation of my career has been to be firm, fair, and follow the facts in every single case. And as your next county attorney, that is exactly what I will do. I will do what I have been doing my entire career here in New Hampshire as a prosecutor, standing with victims, working with our law enforcement to ensure that they are very prepared for our cases, and making sure that we are building trust in our criminal justice system. Because at the foundation of everything that we do as prosecutors and as a future county attorney is to ensure that there is trust in our community. And for me, I have spent my entire career either being a county prosecutor or a state prosecutor. I was the head and trusted to be the head of our criminal justice bureau, where I was responsible for statewide prosecution doing complex cases. I am the most prepared candidate, and I'm asking for your vote on September 8th.
Hello, I'm Jon Raiche. Most of you, I can see a lot of familiar faces out there. Thank you all for coming and attending this event. I see some new faces as well. I'm not going to repeat myself. I mirror everything they say. I think I'm the most prepared candidate. I think I'm the most experienced candidate. I think I'm going to be harshest on crime. I think I'm going to put pedophiles away. I think I'm going to do all the great things that prosecutors do. But more importantly, I'm going to lead the office in a manner that is the fairest and the best for the Merrimack County residents and for the entire state of New Hampshire, quite frankly. Those of you who know me know that I can't keep my mouth shut. So this 1 minute rule is going to be very tough for me, so please bear with me as much as I can. Those little cards are going to go up over there, and I'm sure I'm going to keep talking, and I apologize for that. I got the green card now, so I think I got like 15 seconds. But I do appreciate all your attendance. I do think it is important that we do have a Republican in this seat, a conservative Republican. And I think I have the most conservative credentials here, so with that, I'll turn it back to Elaine.
We're just gonna check. We're just gonna check Meg's microphone. I'm just giving us some feedback. There we go. Okay. All right, without further ado, let's get started. Jonathan, you get the first question. It's on leadership. The clock will start when I finish up. The question sounds like Family Feud. Okay. Jonathan, how would you lead your legal team through a particularly challenging case?
Well, I guess that depends on what you qualify as a particularly challenging case, but I think every case deserves as much attention as necessary. How I'm going to do that, one of the things that I do want to do is I've been working on a score sheet. In Florida, where I have a lot of experience, they had a guideline score sheet, which helped the prosecutors learn what the value of a case actually is. I've heard both of these candidates talk on the trail about how there's prosecutors doing this, and then on that side, there's prosecutors doing something else. So I want to look for some conformity. I want to look for some standardization. And to do that, I've adapted the Florida score sheet to a New Hampshire score sheet. And although that won't be legally binding on anybody, I'm going to be expecting that my office mates, the people that I work with, not that work for me, but they obviously will work for me, will have to comply with that, or at least I'll be working with them to make sure that they're coming as close to that score sheet as possible.
Thank you. Okay, Meg, same question. How would you lead your legal team through a particularly challenging case?
So I can tell you I've already done this, and I've been doing this for years. I headed up a very large task force responsible for hundreds of investigations and cases. I was the head of the criminal bureau and responsible for a staff of over 60 people. We handled some of the most complex cases, everything from a sexual assault, widespread abuse, all the way up to a double homicide. And the key of that was leadership, clear expectations about what we should be doing, and team building. Because at the foundation of a county attorney's office is to make sure that we are building a team towards a common mission. And that common mission should be doing justice in Merrimack County. And I've been doing it for years. And I am the one in this race who has demonstrated that I already know how to be a leader. And for me, I think each and every one of our prosecutors, our support staff, our investigators, they need to be encouraged to be part of this team. Because a county attorney can't prosecute every single case by herself or himself. And it is important to make sure that the person who is at the head of that knows how to build a team.
Thank you. Okay, Sarah, I gotta give him time to reset his clock. Same question, how would you lead the legal team through a particularly challenging case?
So anyone can call themselves a leader, but that's not how you become a leader. You're a leader if other people want to follow you. And I can tell you, I've done plenty of that. I do that now where I work, but I also have done that as an assistant county attorney. I did that really a lot in Hillsborough County. We were a great team. We had each other's backs. We worked together on cases. We would cover for each other. And there was that unified sense of we were doing good. We were fighting the good fight together. And a leader has to be somebody that other people want to follow because they know that she's been there before. I've done 49 criminal jury trials. I did that because you have to fight if you want real sentences in cases. You can't just plea everything out. And so yes, it's team building with police. It's team building with victim advocates. It's a lot of time spent with victims, coaching them through how a criminal process works and giving them power back and saying, if you want to do this, we're your support team. We're here for you.
Thank you. Okay. Sticking with the leadership theme, Meg, you're going to be the first to answer this question. And for those of you who don't know this, as a prosecutor, you get some pretty traumatizing cases. We have all kinds of offenders out there. And it does affect the staff in a lot of ways. So this question has to do with that secondary or vicarious trauma. Okay? So Meg, you get the first bite at this apple. How would you address vicarious trauma or secondary trauma experienced by yourself, by your staff that may result from a particularly traumatizing case?
It's a really important topic to address because I don't think in the legal community we really talk about it. And as prosecutors, we see it day in and day out, the unbelievable, horrible cases and the horrible things that are happening in the community. Thankfully, New Hampshire is very safe, but prosecutors do see some of the worst things. One of my worst cases that I ever saw was a child abuse case of a 5-year-old boy, and it was hopefully one of the worst cases in my entire career. And as a team, we came together, we all debriefed, we met with a provider. There was someone who was gonna help us talk through some of these challenging things, some of these images, these horrific injuries that we had to look at in autopsy photos, which is when someone passes away and examination is done. And we had to go through all of this stuff. And we spent hours together as a team. And it was really important that we were able to process that. And I would look forward to, as your county attorney, being able to bring people in to help make this something that we talk about. Because it is a reality for our law enforcement, our first responders, and our prosecutors. So it's really important that we address it.
Thank you. Sarah, same question. How would you address vicarious or secondary trauma experienced by your staff that may result from a particularly traumatizing case?
So I worked at Merrimack County Attorney's Office for 3 years, and I know most of the people who are there, and I've got friends in that office, and I know their experience. There's a woman there who used to run a program helping with this exact same thing. She is an underutilized resource in that office. So honestly, you go to her. You don't try to do everything yourself when you're a leader. You have a team, right? You go to her, how do you think we can best address this issue in the office? Because right now, I know personally, she checks on everybody. She's doing a great job, and she shouldn't be doing it alone. She should have support from the leader in the office. So that's a very real specific thing that I would do.
Thank you. Okay, Jonathan, same question. How would you address vicarious or secondary trauma experienced by your staff that may result from a particularly traumatizing case?
So it was interesting when I came back to New Hampshire. I noticed that, and I know that one of my opponents here was a sex crime prosecutor extensively, and in other offices I've been, and I've worked in Miami, I've worked in Orlando, and in the Florida Keys, and in each one of those places they made accessible to us, obviously counselors and so forth. And there's a lot of counseling programs that are available. Down there they had prosecutor associations for all the 20 different circuits for the different elected, they call them state attorneys down there, we call them county attorneys here. And those provided some services too. I'd be looking forward to working with the other county attorneys to put together a similar association that can provide those kinds of services as well. I would also like to point out that in the sex crime units and other places I've worked, they have like a 2-year sort of window that they rotate you out for a session, for like a 6-month session before you can keep going on. That's my timer, it's going off, so I'm gonna sit back down and talk, but I have a lot of experience with that, and I would like to implement those types of things here in New Hampshire.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next topic, which is ethics. We're gonna start with Sarah. And Sarah, can you give me an example of an ethical dilemma you have faced in your legal practice and how you handled it?
Yes, so it was the eve of trial. I had worked really hard on getting prepared for this case, gone out to the scene with the police department. There's a lot of work that goes into trial. Anybody who's a prosecutor knows that. And so it's the day of, we've got jury selection, right? You're ready and you're rearing to go. And I find out that it's an illegal charge. I find out that there's case law out there that has negated this statute. Defense attorney didn't pick it up, judge didn't pick it up. I could have gone into the trial, not said a word. Said, hey, it's not my job to point this out. His defense attorney should point this out. But I didn't. I went in, I went to the hearing, I disclosed the case law to both the defense attorney and the judge, and I dismissed the case.
Thank you. Jonathan, same question. Give me an example of an ethical dilemma you have faced in your legal practice and how you handled it.
I'm gonna start my minute over there, sorry. Yeah, no, same thing. I mean, every prosecutor has been doing this for some time, and I've been a prosecutor for going on 14 years now between the various offices I've worked at. I've been a public defender as well. I was a public defender for 4 years, and I had private practice for 6 years. I've never actually had a problem. I've never had a bar complaint about anything except for once when I was a prosecutor and the guy was complaining that he didn't get his appeal on time, and it really didn't have anything to do with me, so it just kind of went away. It was just somebody who was upset that we sent him away for 10 years for a burglary. For ethical things, that are dilemmas like that come up sometimes, I think we all just mirror exactly what my opponent just said, and that is, like, you have to go in there. We're wearing the white hats. We have to be the ones that recognize when we know that there's some bad information. It has to be disclosed. It has to come out. I've never had any kinds of problems like that, but I would make sure that we're consulting and making sure that my staff is always aware they should be following on their sword if they need to, and coming to us and making sure we're disclosing things appropriately.
Thank you. Meg, same question. Give me an example of an ethical dilemma you have faced in your legal practice and how you handled it.
It's a great question because lawyers have some of the highest responsibility in our community. We're bound by ethical obligations every single day. Prosecutors especially are required to uphold justice, not just convictions. And it is so important that your prosecutor and your county attorney is someone that you trust. For me, one of the challenges that I faced when I headed up the task force at our Attorney General's office was there was a very significant case where there was widespread abuse, but we had learned some new information. And that information was something that maybe the defense attorney may or may not learn that information. But we, of course, made the decision that we were going to turn it over no matter what, even if it was a hard decision, even if it meant that the victim in that case was going to have to face some challenging questions. And that's ultimately what happened. The victim did have to face some challenging questions, but in the end, we fought really hard for that victim, and we made sure that we were doing everything we could do to come alongside that person. But it is so important that the person in this role is someone who is going to make sure that they follow the law, that they enforce the law, and they enforce it fairly.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to community. Jonathan, you're going to get this question first. And it is a two-part question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you the A part first, then I'll ask you the B part, and then we'll move down the line, okay? Okay, so Jonathan.
Is that a minute for each part?
Yes, you get a minute for each part. Okay. How important is it that county attorneys have a strong relationship with the communities they represent?
Oh, excellent question, because I think that's one of the focal points. That's one of the things I've said to many of you out there, and I keep reiterating. I think that the county attorney's office, a lot of people I mean, beyond being just the prosecutor, I think we're a focused voice for the entire county. I mean, other than the sheriff's office, there aren't really the sheriff's, the elected sheriffs. There aren't many other offices where we're directly speaking with the people regularly. I want to make sure I have an open door policy with everybody in the community. I want to make sure that the transparency is readily available so that everybody knows what's going on, not only in my office, but the entire court system. Information is difficult to come by in the court system, and it's difficult if anybody's ever had the opportunity to try to go down and see what's going on with the case. You'll realize you come into not full roadblocks, but difficulties in getting that information. And I want to make sure that I'm having regular sessions every month to meet with the community. I want to have a portal that the community can access, that they can see in real time what's going on in the office, and a variety of other, products that I want to unroll that, to bring the community into it so I can be a voice for them with legislatures and judges and everybody else.
Okay, great, thank you. And you sort of partially answered the second part of the question, so you may not have to take up your full minute, but who are your community partners as a county attorney, and how do you plan to work with them to build trust and improve outcomes?
Well, the people, number one, right? As I just said, I want to invite them into the office. I want to have these regular monthly sessions with the people. Obviously, the law enforcement, there's a wonderful sort of Chiefs of Police Association, and they come in monthly, so those are some of the stakeholders. But the legislatures I want to meet with regularly to talk about how we can tweak little statutes here and there to help the process to achieve the goals that people complain about and that they want to do. One of those things being like having a person choose at the district court level whether they're just going to have a hearing or whether they actually want a jury trial. And if they choose to just have the hearing and stay in district court, they don't get to come up and just have a misdemeanor appeal right away where they get a jury trial. That's one of the things, I know a lot of you have heard me talk about that, and I just want to succinctly say that's just one of the ideas that I sort of have.
Great, thank you. Okay, Meg, same question, 2 parts. It's community. I'll ask the first part of the question first. How important is it that the county attorney has a strong relationship with the communities they represent?
It's essential. The criminal justice system, and I don't know what's going on with my mic, I'm sorry. The criminal justice system requires public confidence. And so in order to establish public confidence, you have to be engaged with the community. So in many ways, your county attorney should have a sense and a pulse of what's going on in the community, what you guys care about, and what is important to you. And I can tell you from being out on the campaign trail for months and knocking on hundreds and hundreds of doors, the key thing that I keep hearing from everyone is people want to make sure that they're safe. And thankfully, New Hampshire is a very safe place, but you want to make sure that New Hampshire stays that safe community. And in order to do that, your county attorney needs to be making sure that they have a sense of what's going on in the community and what people care about. And that is vital to what we have going on in the criminal justice system.
Thank you. And then part 2, who are your community partners as a county attorney, and how would you plan to work with them to build trust and improve outcomes?
So I've already been doing all of those things for the last 12, 13 years. I have already been collaborating with our community partners, collaborating with those stakeholders, everything from our local law enforcement to our state law enforcement. And a prosecutor can't do their job without a really good, thoughtful investigation. And so they need to be able to have good communication, strong relationships with our law enforcement partners. But there are a lot of other stakeholders. There are different groups that work to provide services for victims, for people that are witnesses in cases, and we need to make sure that we're having good communication with those individuals and making sure that those needs are being addressed. There are many other different groups, and I keep hearing the feedback. I don't know if you guys can hear it. But there are lots of other people and groups that the county attorney needs to be able to have good communication with. Because again, at the foundation of all of this is public confidence. And the way you do that is you sit down with people, you listen to them, you find out what matters to them, and then you have to actually implement things that they care about.
Great, thank you. Meg, I'm going to switch microphones with you because all my questions are shorter than yours.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now I'm off. Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right, Sarah, next. You get the same question as community, 2 parts. The first question is, how important is it that the county attorney have a strong relationship with the community they represent?
Then it's so important that we elect our county attorney. Not all states do that. It's important to the people of New Hampshire that the person that they elect is a person that they know and a person that they trust. It's not someone appointed by a politician. I was born and raised in this county, and I know the people of this county, and I know their mannerisms, our way of speaking, our way of behaving that isn't always taken the way that it should be by outsiders, basically. And I think when you know that, it's really important when you're prosecuting cases, because you know how to speak to victims because they're my people that I grew up with. And you know how to speak to the defense attorneys because you're not falling for what his client is telling him, because you know a lot more than he does about where his client grew up. So it's about trust. The people in the community know me and I know them, and it's about effectiveness as well.
Thank you. And part 2, who are your community partners and how do you plan to work with them to build trust and improve outcomes?
Oh, community partners. Well, when I started my run for county attorney, I met with almost every police chief in the county. Talked to them about how important it is to have communication between the office, how important it would be for them to even just have a monthly phone call to talk about their cases. So that's one community partner. I have said before, I worked for CASA New Hampshire, Court-Appointed Special Advocates. They are a wonderful resource for child protection, which is an issue that I really, really care about. I'm also close with people at the Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. They do a lot of work for victims, which is pretty involved with what prosecutors do. So we work in hand with all of those groups, and I have strong connections with all of those groups.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to policy. Meg, you're up, right? Yep. Okay. You guys keep me straight here because I started writing it down because I was like, oops, I'm going to get myself confused. So policy. What are your policy priorities for reducing recidivism in our county?
I would say anything that is public protection, because there are a variety of ways that the community can be safe. It could be holding the most serious offenders accountable, which should absolutely be a priority, because the most serious offenders should receive the most serious punishments. But there are a lot of other circumstances where that's not appropriate, and we need to make sure that we are fair and consistent in all of our cases. And there are lots of opportunities. Merrimack County, thankfully, has a lot of programming for circumstances that try to ensure that we're reducing the crime rate, that we're addressing the fact that there are other types of crimes that need some other alternative. Now, that needs to be applied in appropriate circumstances, and it needs to be applied consistently. That could be everything from a diversion program to our drug court, and those have proven to be successful, but they're only successful in the right circumstances. So you need a county attorney who can be 2 things, that they are both strong, so that you know that if this is a violent offense, that this is a repeat offense, that they're going to be held accountable to the fullest extent. But you also need someone who's going to be fair and knows when that appropriate circumstance is to ensure that we're reducing crime in a different way.
Thank you. Sarah, policy?
Well, one thing I already did at the Merrimack County Attorney's Office, because again, I worked there for 3 years, was, I don't know if all of you are aware, there is a charge in New Hampshire called the habitual offender charge. If you commit enough driving offenses, you get your license taken away and you're labeled an habitual offender. And if you get caught driving again, that's a felony. And a lot of those end up at the county attorney's office. And what's the best way to deal with that, right? The best way to reduce recidivism is not to keep that person's license suspended indefinitely. Most of those people are just trying to figure out how to navigate the DMV. And so I started a program using the Merrimack County Diversion Center, modeled on the Stratford County HO Academy, so that someone from the diversion program will work with with anyone who's convicted of HO, if it's appropriate, if there are no other charges or no serious charges, and help them navigate that DMV process to get their license back. So that is one real thing that I did. I don't have time to keep getting into it, but yeah.
Thank you. Jonathan, policy. What are your policy priorities for reducing recidivism in our county?
I can tell you I'm the only candidate old enough here to have studied broken windows theory in my criminal justice understudy at St. Anselm College. And I think we're going to go back to that. I really think that the quality of life crimes we need to start paying attention to those. And then, with all due respect to Meg, talking about like some of the smaller crimes, you have to come up with different ideas and different things. This is a free society. People need to be accountable for their own actions and finding their own solutions to those actions. I'm not suggesting that we take away opportunities for them. I'm just suggesting there has to be consequence for their actions when they're committing some of these low-level crimes. The drug users that are out on the street they're part of the homeless problem, they're part of the pedophilia problem, they're part of some of these higher crimes that they always talk about wanting to go after and get, but in all fairness, every prosecutor wants to go after the high crimes. Every prosecutor wants to make a name for themselves by working at the AG's office and just working on murders and high-level drug trafficking offenses where the people aren't getting released. We're down in the trenches. I've been down in the trenches for all of my career at the trial level, at the state court trial level, working on cases and getting people held accountable for their actions. And that's what we need to do in order to start working on the higher level offenses and getting those reduced as well.
Thank you. Okay, Sarah, you're up. So you're right?
I think so.
Okay. Still talking policy here. What is the number one issue or priority you have identified to tackle if you are elected?
My number one issue, actually, they let me publish it in the New Hampshire Journal this week. My number one issue is consistency with how we treat victims coming into the office. Not just because of, empathy, compassion, important things that we have for people who have been through horrible, horrible things, but because these are the heroes of our society. Without a victim testimony, prosecutors can't do our jobs. Police can't do their jobs. There's a saying in defense circles, no face, no case. And if your victim doesn't show up to trial, you don't have a trial. And then that person is back out on the street hurting other people with no consequences. So when I was a prosecutor, I would meet with my victims early and often. I would have them come in, I would sit down, explain the basics of criminal justice. We would go through every hearing they were gonna have to come to. I would tell them everything that was expected of them. We would visit the courthouse. I want every victim who comes through the office to have that experience.
Thank you. Jonathan, you're up. Policy. Last policy question. What is the number one issue or priority you have identified to tackle if you are elected?
Well, I really want to tackle this problem we have in this state. This is a unique state because at district court, I've kind of touched on this already. You have to go through trial at district court if it's a misdemeanor. A lot of our domestic violences are misdemeanor charges, and the victims have to go through the district court first and have a trial in district court. After they're done in district court, a lot of times the offender who gets, if they're found guilty, gets to say, I would like a do-over and I'd like to do it in front of 12 jury members now. That is an important thing that I'd like to stop. And one of the things that I'm already doing, because I'm the head of the domestic violence unit down in Hillsborough, is I'm instructing officers, or not instructing them, but asking them to make sure they're truly assessing the case to see if there's an attempted serious bodily injury type of case. If there's a closed fist that's being used against a child or a woman, and that's being used against those person, and it's causing a mark, that should be an attempted assault. That is a second-degree felony level offense, not a misdemeanor offense that has to drag the victim through something twice.
Thank you. Next, same question, last policy question. What is the number one issue or priority you have identified to tackle if you are elected?
I think one of the most important things that your next county attorney needs to be doing is focus on the future of the office and the people within it. Because in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a lot of issues that our law enforcement community faces, whether it's addressing how we're going to deal with AI, whether it's workforce challenges. And the next county attorney needs to be really mindful of the people in the office and ensuring that these people know how to manage cases, they know how to try cases, they know how to actually ensure that we are making sure there is justice for every victim in every case. And the way you do that is to ensure that the people in the office are well prepared, they feel encouraged, they have mentors, and that you have really come alongside them to ensure that the office is going to be able to be successful for years and years to come.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, new topic. Legislation. Jonathan, you get the first question on legislation. Describe a piece of legislation you feel would improve public safety.
The bail statute, to begin with. I think that, there's a provision that's not often used that punishes people, gives them an extra year for misdemeanors, an extra 7 years. It's 597-14-BA, 14-A. And that statute tacks those on. If you were out on bail and you commit a new offense, it tacks those on. I'd like to tweak that, and I'd like to work with our legislatures. If I could snap my fingers and just make the legislation say what I wanted it to, that would be a mandatory sentence that you have to serve. Maybe if it's like your third time doing it, it should be a definite mandatory, but something along those lines. Like, not only is it we're tacking on an available year or 7 years if it's a felony, but there's also a mandatory provision that if you were out on bail, you must now serve like 6 months if you committed that offense a new offense while on bail.
Great, thank you. Meg, same question. Describe a piece of legislation you feel would improve public safety.
So there are a lot of different topics that could be very well addressed by our legislature and hopefully enforced by your next county attorney. But in my time as a county prosecutor, one of the things that I have noticed, and even as a state prosecutor, I'm surprised by, there are some different groups of, I'll call them like providers, think like a behavioral analyst who's providing child care, think a lot of times maybe someone who's autistic, and we don't regulate that here in New Hampshire. Those types of roles are typically regulated at the national level. And that is something that I think New Hampshire should really take a hard look at, as are there people that are providing care to children, oftentimes in homes, that we're not regulating, and we're not having an ability to make sure that children are safe, and that we have a way here in New Hampshire to enforce that they are treating those children the way they should be treated, that they're ensuring not only that they're safe, but they're also getting the care and the treatment that they should have.
Thank you. Sarah? Do you want me to read the question? Okay.
I'm good to go.
Okay.
I'm excited about this one because it's something that I've been talking about for a long time. So in New Hampshire, we have something called a pattern sexual assault charge. So if somebody commits sexual assault against usually a child over and over and over again before the child tells somebody, you're allowed to take that to trial and the jury hears about every instance. We don't have that with domestic violence. And it's the same thing. It happens over and over and over again. And people say, why does she keep going back? Well, because she has kids, because they have a house together, because she thinks it's gonna stop, but it doesn't. She finally comes forward after maybe he tries to kill her, and what she finds out is, yeah, those other dozen times he beat you up that you have plenty of documentation for that you've been to the hospital, jury's not gonna hear about those. They're gonna hear about each individual instance and have no idea about this pattern that has been going on for years. And I think we need to change that.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to public safety. Meg, you're in the hot seat. County attorneys can often use their discretion when deciding what crimes to charge a defendant with and how severe a sentence to seek from a judge. What factors would you take into consideration when making these decisions?
So I don't think your county attorney should be picking and choosing which crimes that they should charge. I think that they should be based off of the facts and the law in front of them. And that has been the bedrock and the foundation of my entire career. You have to look at the facts and you have to look at the law and you have to make an informed decision based off of that information. It shouldn't be that we say, oh, these low-level crimes we're not enforcing, or these certain types of crimes I don't think are as important, so I'm not going to enforce them. Your county attorney's job and the highest obligation of your county attorney is to enforce the law consistently and fairly so that we can ensure that justice is happening across the county. In terms of the factors that your county attorney should be weighing, there are a lot of things that is going to go into your county prosecutor and your county attorney's decision-making in terms of how a case should be resolved or what is an appropriate sentence. That could be everything from the nature of the crime. Is this a serious offense? Is this a first offense? Does someone have a criminal history? There are a number of circumstances and factors that your prosecutor needs to consider. But at the end of the day, you need to take into consideration a victim's input, your law enforcement input, and you have to take all of that and make a very thoughtful, well-reasoned decision.
Sarah, I'm going to read the question because it was kind of long. County attorneys can often use their discretion when deciding what crimes to charge a defendant with and how severe a sentence to seek from a judge. What factors would you take into consideration when making these decisions?
So the court, when they're thinking about sentencing, they factor in punishment, deterrence, rehabilitation. When you're looking at charging, for me, a really big factor is intent. There's a concept in criminal law called mens rea. It means, did you mean to do it, basically? Were you being purposeful? Were you being reckless? Were you being negligent? And the kind of criminal charge that you get can depend on your mental state. So that's a really, really important one. Another one, life circumstances, of course. I've definitely worked and negotiated with defense counsel if somebody is really young, if it's their first offense, all of those factors. But I think above and beyond all of the normal things, when I sit down and look at a case, I always ask myself, what is justice here? And it doesn't look the same with every case. Otherwise, we would just have standard guidelines.
Jonathan,
Yes, thank you very much.
do you need the question read again?
No, I think I already kind of
Okay,
touched on
okay.
this before when I was talking about the sentence sheet that the score sheet that I was sort of working on as an adaptation, what I used for about 20 years in Florida. And you'd be surprised at how remarkable it is that this thing comes up with, you punch in the numbers of what offenses occur and stuff like that, what the prior history of the person is, other aggravating factors, other mitigating factors, and it spits out a number that in Florida, the courts have to abide by. That's the minimum sentence that can be given. I want to provide that as sort of a baseline, a guideline to the members of my office that they can look towards and utilize, and then expect them to sort of justify why they're going below that or why they're going above that, and work with them. Have communication with them about, why did you go below that sentence when the guidelines sheet was saying this? And if they have good reasoning, such as Sarah was just talking about, like they're looking at the intent and stuff, then we'll say, okay, that's good, or whatever. And it's just a sort of baseline thing, but I think that's an important way to do is sort of have a standard baseline that people can work off of. Otherwise, you just have prosecutors doing whatever they want, whenever they want, and that's not a good thing.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're to our last question. Thank you all for your attention. I know you guys have been sitting here for a while, but these are important questions. So Sarah, you get this one first, and hot topic.
Oh, geez.
If there were another pandemic
Ooh.
and the governor ordered a shutdown of private meetings such as churches or veteran organizations, would you prosecute the leadership, i.e. the pastors, if they continued services or meetings against the governor's orders?
Against the governor's orders. I'm sorry, but I don't know if that is a crime. I've never considered that, looked into it, prosecuted it before. So I can't confidently answer that question. In the legal world, we would say, I'd have to review that and get back to you. I can tell you that if there's a crime that's occurring, I would prosecute it, because that's our job. We're law enforcers, we are not lawmakers. It is not our job to determine what the policy should or shouldn't be. It is our job to enforce that. So if a governor's order is a prosecutable offense under our criminal justice statute and it was a felony that came to the county attorney's office, then yes, we would enforce that.
Jonathan, same question. If there were another pandemic and the governor ordered a shutdown of private meetings such as churches or veteran organizations, would you prosecute the leadership, i.e. the pastor, if they continued services or meetings against the governor's orders?
On the religious side of it, no. I think that religious freedom is a very important thing in this country, and you're messing with the First Amendment if you're prosecuting people for peacefully assembling, especially for their religious rights. If they want to meet, if they're informed, if they know what they're talking, they should be able to do that. And again, that just goes to a free society, right? You're accountable for your own behaviors. You're responsible for your own consequences. And if people were going to meet during the pandemic, the last pandemic that we had, and they wanted to take the risk of meeting up, they could do that. I didn't. I stayed in my house. I remained 6 feet away from each other. I did not get the jab, so to speak, but I mean, that was my personal choice. And I really gave serious consideration as to what if somebody was going to fire me from my job as a prosecutor if I didn't, and I wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? So I think that we have to respect people's own personal sense of freedom. And if you don't want to be around people that aren't abiding by that and you want to protect your own safety, you can do that for yourself. But I would not prosecute anybody that did that. And I would stand up against the governor. I would have the fortitude to actually do that. Ask any judge I've been in front of, they'll let you know. I've got the fortitude to push back and say, hey, this isn't what we're doing here today.
Thank you. Okay, next, same question. If there were another pandemic and the governor ordered a shutdown of private meetings such as churches or veteran organizations, would you prosecute the leadership, i.e. the pastors, if they continued services or meetings against the governor's orders?
You know, it's a really challenging question to answer. You know, from my perspective and my faith and my religion, I would want to continue to be able to go to church and make that decision for myself. But I would need to understand whether this was a crime that the legislature had passed. Because a governor's order may be different than a law passed by our legislature. You would hope that the legislature would have passed a law that reflects what the people want. So your county prosecutor needs to enforce the law, but they also have to have good, sound judgment and understand where there's actually a law that's being broken or whether this is just a policy.
Thank you. So that was the end of the questions. I want you all to give these candidates a really big they all did a fantastic job. I really think they did a fantastic job. I was at one point a prosecutor. I worked at Hillsborough and at Merrimack, so I think I worked with Jonathan, but I've never worked alongside you guys. And I made those questions, but they were really hard questions. And I think my goal in writing those questions and having them answer them was so that you could get a good sense of what is expected of a county attorney. If you didn't know what the county attorney did for this state or for this county, before tonight, I hope you have a better understanding of the breadth and depth of just how many people's lives they impact and the importance of their role in this community. So again, great job to all three of you. They made voting day very hard, I think, for all of us. But now we're going to give each candidate 1 minute, right, David? We're going to give each candidate 1 minute to give their little out pitch, okay? So let's see, we started with Sarah, right? Let's start with Meg in the middle. You can go first, and then we'll let Sarah and Jonathan go.
So Merrimack County deserves a county attorney who can do more than just talk about the job, someone who's actually proven through the course of their career that they can do it. I have led teams, both small and large teams, from complex sexual assault, widespread abuse, all the way up to and including double homicides. I've also handled and been in the trenches at the county attorney's office, handling super heavy caseloads and knowing what that looks like. I am the most prepared candidate for this job because I'm going to be concerned about what's going on in the community. I'm concerned about that for you and for my family. And I look forward to earning your vote on September 8th.
Thank you. Sarah?
Thank you. I want to be county attorney because I love this work. It's the most meaningful work that I've ever done in my life. And I want to give back to this community that raised me. I want to give back to the people that I know and care about here. And I want to lift the voices of victims in our community. And I want to make sure that this office is the best office in the state because there's no excuse for it not to be.
Jonathan?
So getting to go last, I get to just say I like both of their answers and I mirror everything that they have to say. And I would add to that there's just a lot of extra things that we didn't get to discuss tonight. And I appreciate all you letting me knock on your doors and come out there and speaking to you and sort of giving you my spiel. And I'm sorry that I've glazed some of your eyes over on various occasions. I mean, it's tough to talk about this position because it is a complicated position. I've been doing this job as an attorney in the criminal justice field. I have a criminal justice undergraduate degree, and I've been doing this in criminal justice for 26 years now. I remember the crack epidemic. I was doing an internship with the Manchester Police Department, and we were busting down doors when that was going on and taking in people, and we were going hardcore on the crack epidemic. The fentanyl epidemic came around, and now I'm seeing all the same kind of stuff happening, but it's like 10 times on steroids. I know how to handle all these problems. I've seen it from the other side. I've told you, I've been a public offender both in Miami and Orlando. Those are large metropolitan areas. I've been sitting in jails until 4 a.m. sometimes in the morning, working with people. I understand how the criminal mind thinks. I know when they're laughing at the courts and when they're laughing at the judicial system. I say it on a daily basis to the judges that I'm in front of in Hillsborough County, the largest department in this entire state with regard to the caseload that they work on. And I've been handling those cases in the major crimes unit and before the judges, letting them know, where we have to go with these things. And I'm not afraid to hold them accountable. Thank you very much, and I hope I can get your vote on September 8th.
Okay. So David and Andrew, thank you very much for the privilege and honor to be here tonight. Thank you all for your attendance. I love being a Republican and I love being an American, and this just makes my heart feel so good to know that there's this many people willing to come out on a Thursday night and be part of making our community safer. So God bless you all. Thank you for coming tonight, and I will give the microphone back to David.
Well, I hope you have all had a lot of fun. I definitely had, especially sitting right here in the front row. I can't complain about that. And thank you again to all of our candidates. This was so awesome being able to gather here amongst people, our neighbors, our friends, familiar faces, new faces, and just really be able to learn all about you. And that's what it's all about, the spirit of debate. So let's have a big round of applause for our candidates and for our moderators. I don't want to be cheesy, but I'll be a little cheesy. I think, on those old Cartoon Networks, when the cartoon would get over, it would have is his name Roger Rabbit and that circle, and it's that's all, folks. Bugs Bunny.
Oh my God.
So that's a wrap, folks. Have fun, have a good night, talk to these candidates, and God bless.